Hi, I'm Shane Smith from Shanesmithlaw. I'm here with Ashley, one of our attorneys here at Shanesmithlaw. We're going to talk about one of the great results she had on a horrific accident with massive damage. Ashley, we're talking about MI's case here today. Tell me a little bit about the accident and what took place.
Yeah, I guess it's most important to start with that massive damage to kind of set the tone for how bad this accident was. So our client's driving along and the road's 45 miles an hour. He's doing the speed limit when another driver fails to stop at a stop sign at an intersection. Blows to the stop sign. Our client does not have any sort of chance to really avoid the accident. He brakes, but all in all ends up hitting the other driver. To give you an idea of how bad the accident was, there was over $30,000 in property damage between both vehicles.
Okay.
So
And
very, very big impact.
yeah, so our client had the right of way. The other person just didn't even stop, just went right through the intersection.
Yeah. Yep. Just blew the stop sign completely. Our client has no idea this is going to happen. He's cruising along, like you said, with the right of way. So unfortunately for our client, this puts him in the ER and with a very serious ankle injury, something called an open fracture, which essentially means it's a fracture that's so bad that the skin ends up breaking with it, and there's exposure to the bone underneath.
Okay. Was it one bone that broke or two or how many?
He ended up with two different fractures in his ankle. One was dislocated pretty bad, and based on that dislocation, he required surgery. So what ended up happening was he was splinted for the remainder of that evening. Unfortunately for our client, he ended up in the hospital overnight because the earliest that they could do this surgery that was necessary was, I think it was roughly 11:30 the next morning, and
Wow.
the accident happened at 5 p.m. So we're talking almost a full day here. Um, Unfortunately, however, they were able to get in, put in 3 screws and a plate, reset everything, and wrap them up. Those types of injuries, they don't cast because they need to be able to see the wound site, the incision site, make sure everything's healing correctly. But it's such a bad injury too that even post surgery, we're talking about surgery in November, he went through physical therapy until May before he
Wow.
was released and considered, fully healed.
Wow. So 6 months of basically PT and recovery even after the accident.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of work on our client's behalf. It was stiff, it was painful, but he was tough. He did everything he needed to do to get it back to as close to 100% as we could get him, medically speaking.
Did the insurance company dispute liability? What was the part of this case that they fought the most about?
They just weren't responsive. That was the biggest issue we had. They didn't really fight liability. It was just, we knew there was going to be a massive hospital bill. So
Yeah.
usually in those scenarios, what we do is we just go to the insurance company and say, hey, if this is within your policy limits, and here it was $100,000, and we're talking about $100,000 hospital bill, you should just go ahead and tender that policy now. Let the client get some money while he's going through all this
Yeah. Right.
rehabilitation. They were reluctant to do so. They wanted him to finish physical therapy, which was insane. We sent them the hospital bills. We fought it as best we could, but all in all, we had to wait till he was done with physical therapy to even really get a response.
So it sounds like they just delayed everything. I guess hoping that it was, the client would get tired or wouldn't stick to his guns or something would happen and they wouldn't have to pony up all the money for the insurance policy.
Probably the case. A lot of times the insurance company wants to see if you're going to stick it out through treatment and try and say that you're not as hurt, if you bail early when you're not better. But our client was diligent. He went to every physical therapy appointment. He didn't reschedule anything. He's also young. He wanted to get better. When basketball is one of your biggest hobbies and, you're struggling to walk around, that's a big deal. As far as the insurance company goes, once we did finally get all those final records and sent them to them, they didn't even really correspond with us. They just tendered their policy and sent the check. I only knew that they tendered their policy because our firm received the check for the policy.
All right. So it sounds like the biggest issue was, staying in touch with the client, making sure it was diligent, building the demand package, gathering all the bills and records. And then ultimately, once the insurance company almost had no choice, then they paid the policy limits. But until then, they just delayed it as long as they could.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's exactly what they did. But we were able to still, tough it out in the end and get them what we needed to prove they didn't have any other choice.
All right. Well, it sounds like I think you said earlier you got the policy limits on the case, which is the most the insurance company had on this particular policy. So it sounds like a good result financially for your client, MI, even if his injuries were so severe.
Yes, definitely.
All right. What'd you learn from this case that you can use to help your future clients?
I would say, sometimes we get clients who, to be completely honest, get tired of treating. They're still hurt, but life goes on and they want to go on with it. In cases like this where his bill was this high, you think that that would be enough, but it wasn't. It really wasn't. It showed that, right down to the line, treatment was so important. So emphasizing to our clients that not only is treatment important to get you better, but for us to really go after the insurance company for the value of your injury. I mean, we're talking a full-blown surgery here, and they still were reluctant to give us that policy. It's really important to be diligent about treatment. So really staying on top of treatment with my clients, I think, is the biggest lesson here.
All right. To our listeners, thanks for listening. Remember, if you're in pain, call Shane, 980-999-9999. Find us online or dial 9. You can also order our Victim Survivor Guide to Car Accidents at our website, Shanesmithlaw. Hit subscribe so you catch our next update where we go over another case next week. Thanks a lot, Ashley.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
980-999-9999. 980-999-9999. Shanesmithlaw.